Hey, good morning, everybody. We're live here in Fredericksburg, Texas. This is Robert Phoenix broadcasting to you, and it is funky out. It is very funky out. Cold, damp, kind of weather that gets inside your bones. And I've not been feeling 100%. I'm still not quite there, but got to put the shovel in the ground every day and do my best to do the work, as they say. How was everybody? Just kind of hang out for a little bit and see who comes into the chat room. Hi, Judy, my fellow Texan, my fellow Longhorn. It is called Morning Ninth House Gypsy. Pretty chilly here. Yep, it is winter in America. Good morning, Ani. Nice to see you. I think you're probably in a warmer place than most of us. So, yeah, it's Veterans Day, isn't it? How do we feel about Veterans Day? I'm going to get into Veterans Day a little bit today and try to break it down. Really cold here. Cannot wait to get on the road again. Cold rain from Joe in the Carolinas. Not Joe in the Carolinas, but Joe, J-O, different Joe. Morning, Robert. Chilly in Philly. It's even chillier after that loss to the Cowboys last night, huh? Whoa. Didn't see that coming. Snowing like all get out up here in the Texas Panhandle. Woo. Snow in the Panhandle. That means that we might be getting some snow down here in this area. And Ani, we can all just admire Ani and her 75-degree life right now. Not fond of it. Veterans Day. And we have the same birthday. I'll be 53 too. White Wolf, I'm a New Yorker. 37 is Divine Michael. Hi, Michael. So you're just down the road from me. I'd love to go. Just a lot of people I know in Florida. I'd love to go to Florida. I like Florida, actually. You don't want my opinion. We're going to talk a little bit about Veterans Day today. And Veterans Day, which is in many ways the commemoration, hi, Natasha, of World War One. Marina Darkstar mentioned me in her latest video. Oh, cool. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Marina Darkstar. I think she's brilliant, especially because she likes what I do. No, that's just an aside. No, she's always been brilliant. But Marina, man, she made a pivot. She made a pivot in her life, and she started to look at the world very, very differently. So came through Amarillo 3 days ago. We'll start to get cold up there. Yeah, I'm a fan of hers too. She's good. Last night I was reading that piece of on Antares, and she'd written that. So tremendous work, really good work. We're going to look at World War One today, not so much astrologically, but in terms of sort of what was happening and what took place, because this is the anniversary, like the big anniversary of World War One. This is when World War One doesn't it end right around now? Let's just look at this. I need to get into this a little bit. WW1. I'm going to bring it forward so we can talk about. It was July 1914 to the 11th of November 1918. So this is the 100-year anniversary of when World War One ended. I believe that World War One was the great Christian genocide. And it was, I believe, that war was set up by Freemasons and bankers for a number of reasons. Number one, to essentially redistrict parts of Europe. That was kind of a big deal. To knock out kind of the last of the royal families, which were the Habsburgs. And also the Romanovs. They were kind of part of the end game. It went to, end of World War One and then into the Bolshevik Revolution. Rasputin had prophesied that Alexander should not go and commit troops and fight in the Great War. And Alexander was, I guess, trying to be a hero, protect his people, create alliances, did not listen to Rasputin's prophetic warnings, because while he was gone, that's when the Bolsheviks moved in. And that's when they decided that they were going to flip the country and basically take it over from the Romanovs. And history ensues after that. So World War I was an absolutely phenomenal cover and distraction in a lot of ways for what was going to take place right on the heels of World War I, which was flipping Russia and creating the Soviet Union, thanks to the likes of Lenin and Stalin and all those characters. So World War I has an unusual beginning, very, very unusual beginning. And it starts with the incident with Gavril Princip. And Princip was a radical. And he wound up killing the Grand Duke of Austria. And it was just an absolutely bizarre scene. Absolutely bizarre scene. As the Grand Duke of Austria had been traveling throughout the sort of the Chechen region, and there was a lot of agitation going on, a lot of agitation. So theoretically, that's where it starts. However, there's a lot more that sort of went on with World War I. You had the French and the Germans and the English all getting money from the Rothschilds. So I'm going to read to you a piece here. It's fairly long, but I'm going to bring it to discussion. It's from BATR.org, very controversial website. By the way, websites are dropping like flies. A couple days ago, I was on Facebook and I had suggested a website called Anorfan, and actually a pretty amazing website run by a woman living in England, and a lot of really interesting dot connecting and fresh perspectives, and super clear and nonpartisan. Google took her website down. Excuse me. So if you're hosting a blog or a website, you've got to make sure that Google, which owns WordPress, you got to make sure that you. I think she was on Blogger, which also got bought by Google. So whether it's WordPress or whether it's Blogger, Google has its fingers in all these different weblog publishing entities, and they can yank you in a heartbeat. So I use a service called DreamHost, and hopefully keep me out of harm's way. But I wouldn't say that my material is that controversial. The videos might be more controversial than the website, and I'm redoing the website anyway. So I want to read this. This is the cause and consequences of World War I. With the cultural commemoration of the Great War, the timeline of World War I provides a chronological list of facts and occurrences, contrasts such details with the wholly inadequate and sanitized version of the top 5 causes of the war. Number 1, mutual defense alliances. Number 2, imperialism. Number 3, militarism. Number 4, nationalism. Number 5, immediate cause, assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, who was the Archduke of the Austro-Prussian Empire. None of these simplistic categories or labels has any veritable bearing on the underlying political, social, economic, or evil forces that conspire to drive Western civilizations into a self-induced suicidal slaughter. I mean, just think about that. Just think about the motivation to take on a neighboring country. And World War One was bloody. I mean, there's a lot of hand-to-hand stuff going on with bayonets and you know people, corpses lying in fields for months. The bloodiest battle in the history of the world, modern and ancient, took place during World War One in the city that I was born in, called Verdun. There were more people killed in Verdun than any other war in history. So that gives you an idea of the savagery, the barbarism, the death, the desolation, the desecration of the land, the people, the cultures, just so they can be moved around. And a lot of really good people died during World War One. It didn't have to happen. It did not have to happen. We had a generation of people just wiped out. Terrible. And if they didn't get them the first time, they sure got them the second time with World War Two. Let me continue this. None of these simplistic categories or labels has any veritable bearing on the underlying political, social, economic, and evil forces that conspire to drive Western civilizations into a self-induced suicidal slaughter. The true history of World War One is rooted in the permanent struggle against satanic powers that seek the destruction of Christendom, the financial enslavement of humanity, and the death of Gentile society. I'm telling you, this is a controversial website, so we may get into areas that might make you feel uncomfortable. In this war, the German Rothschilds loaned money to the Germans. Okay, so you have banking. The Rothschilds are banking families all throughout Europe, and they've set up and they've basically become intertwined with the state. That they are running the state banks of the various countries of Europe. This is what happens. We're looking at the sort of maximum rise of the Rothschild effort in the early 1900s. In this war, the German Rothschilds loaned money to the Germans, the British Rothschilds loaned money to the British, and the French Rothschilds loaned money to the French. Furthermore, the Rothschilds have control of 3 European news agencies. Wolf, established in 1849 in Germany, Reuters, established 1851 in England, and Havas, established 1835 in France. The Rothschilds used Wolf to manipulate the German people into a fervor for war. From around this time, the Rothschilds are rarely reported in the media because they own the media. The video of Benjamin H. Friedman from the 1961 speech about the Balfour Declaration deal, which brought the U.S. into World War I, explains in the most fundamental manner the role of the Rothschilds in World War I. Summarized by Benjamin H. Friedman, the Balfour Declaration was merely Great Britain's promise to pay the Zionists what they agreed upon as a consideration for getting the United States into the war. This is true. They were getting ready to have an armistice. They were getting ready to end the war. Call it a day. Lots of lives have been lost. But oh no, no. The Zionists and the Zionist Congress went to the Brits and they said, look, you can win this war. We're going to bring the Americans into this war, and the Americans will help you turn the tide. And if you do that, well, you can help us set up shop in the Holy Land. That's what the Balfour Declaration was about. In America, J.P. Morgan was the sales agent for war materials to both the British and the French. In fact, 6 months into the war, Morgan became the largest consumer on earth, spending $10 million a day. Other Rothschild allies in the United States made out as well from the war. President Wilson appointed Bernard Baruch to head the War Industries Board. Bernard Baruch. That's an interesting name. Bernard Baruch was the guy that ran the Manhattan Project from his penthouse suite in Manhattan, New York. That's why it was called the Manhattan Project. Bernard Baruch. So he shows up later on. According to historian James Perloff, both Baruch and the Rockefellers profited by some 200 million during the war. It's a very, very large and rapid profit since the war essentially lasts from 1914 to 1918, right? A lot of money. Let's see. The more that things change, the further they remain the same. The essay, International Bankers in World War I References, the book, A Century of War by William Engdahl. William Engdahl is a really good researcher and writer. He wrote The Seeds of Destruction, the book about Monsanto. This is what he has to say. By 1920, Morgan partner Thomas W. Lamont noted with obvious satisfaction that as a result of 4 years of war and global devastation, the national debts of the world have increased by $210 billion, or about 475% in the last 6 years. And as a natural consequence, the variety of government bonds, number of investors in them, have been greatly multiplied. These results have made themselves manifest in all the investment markets of the world, but nowhere perhaps in greater measure than in the United States. It may be noted that in 1913, 1911 is when the war started, my bad. 1913, the U.S. government budget was a mere $714 million. $714 million. Think about that. Well, that was before they had that little party at Jekyll Island. While the Rockefeller Empire was worth $950 million in 1913, the Rockefeller-Morgan empires were built through financing by the Rothschild banking family, which is true. Such financial manipulation deserves an honest evaluation, as Brother Nathaniel, I don't know if you've ever caught Brother Nathaniel's act, he's interesting, offers in his summary of the Benjamin H. Friedman viewpoint in his article, Jews blackmailed Wilson into World War I. Brother Nathaniel, Jewish by birth, became an Russian Orthodox monk. And he's a trip, man. He's a total trip. I don't know how he has his channel stay online. Not a shot had been fired on German soil, yet Germany was offering England peace terms. They offered England a negotiated peace on what the lawyers call a status quo ante basis, which means let's call the war off, let everything be as it was before the war started. Okay, that's where it was going. England in the summer of 1916 was considering Germany's peace terms. They had no choice. It was either accepting this negotiated peace that Germany was offering them or going on with the war and being totally defeated. Well, that was going on. The Zionists in Germany, led by Chaim Weizmann, who later became the first president of Israel, went to the British War Cabinet and said, don't capitulate to Germany. You can win this war. If the United States comes in as your ally, we can arrange this. But in return, you must promise us Palestine once the tide turns in your favor. In this war, 115,516 American soldiers were killed. 202,002 were maimed for life. Historian Alan Brugger has pointed out that for every soldier who died in battle, the international bankers made a profit of $10,000. It was the bankers who manipulated the horrific World War I. The bloodletting was not just to make profits. This was also carried out to exhaust countries by bleeding them and enhance the control of bankers over governments with the objective of setting up a new world order. The penetration of the banking families into the power fabric of nations can be gauged from the astonishing fact that during World War I, German intelligence was headed by the banker Max Warburg, brother of naturalized U.S. citizen Paul Warburg. Paul Warburg authored the diabolical Federal Reserve Scheme. The Warburgs were among the owners of the Federal Reserve. Both represented their respective countries in the delegations that met at the peace negotiations at Versailles after World War I, in which Germany was ripped off completely. This is a big deal. The Treaty of Versailles sows the seeds for World War II. because the reparations that were forced onto the German people after the First World War were onerous, usurious, and it completely bankrupted Germany, both financially and spiritually. Out of that experience, out of the terrible devastation of their economy and their social identity, there's the Weimar Republic, which comes to be the sort of the ruling order or the ruling party uh, in Germany after World War One. The Weimar Republic is totally corrupt. It actually is a vice based or vice oriented economy. Uh, it is really sort of the natter for German people in the beginning of the 20th century. And out of this complete moral decay, moral corruption, and also economic bankruptcy, Hitler rises to power. There's no there's no coincidence about this, right? There's no coincidence at all. This is what happens when people are desperate, when they're demoralized. You can have a very strong figure come in and begin to uh, assemble a system, obviously with the help of a number of people backing that person, and it could raise the cultural identity and the morale and all that stuff. I mean, that's what happened with Nazi Germany. Did every single German believe in the Nazi Party? No, likely not. And clearly, I'm not sitting here banging the drum for the Nazi Party. I'm just giving you sort of the evolution of events and what happened. And it is in that void, in that moral and economic void that was put into place by the Treaty of Versailles, that we have the rise of the the Third Reich. That's what happens. So World War One, while we would like to celebrate it as one of the great wars, if we look back on it, really, what were we defending? What were we defending? We weren't defending anything, really. There was no threat to United States interests. No, what happened and how we got into World War One was there was a ship called the Lusitania, and the Lusitania was carrying munitions, theoretically to send to the English or the French or wherever it was going to land. And the Germans had intercepted a radio signal. It was all planned. It was all planned. So the Germans could hear what was going on, pick up the signal. And excuse me, for weeks before the Lusitania left and departed for Europe, there were posters all over New York basically telling people not to, get on board the Lusitania, loose lip sink ships, all that stuff. Like don't get on that ship. They were warning people not to get on that ship because they knew that based on the fact that there was a war going on, that they'd have to take it out. And so they had a German U-boat fire on the Lusitania, and because it was filled with munitions, like they said it was, it sunk very, very quickly. And after that, the United States was in World War One. That's how we got into it, you know. And we lost 212,000 people as a result of that. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of our fine young men. Okay. So World War One is a complete scam. And ultimately, this whole Veterans Day thing is a complete scam too. I'm sorry. Sorry. Uh, my boy Perry aside, Perry Ulander, who's a good friend and wrote Walking Point about his experiences in Vietnam. I love Perry, and Perry had a very different experience around war, more different than just about any other person you'll run into. But I watch football, and yesterday I was watching all these salutes to the troops, and I'm like, thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for keeping us safe and free. Well, how safe are we? Really, how safe are we? out there in the world, free. How free are we? And just can somebody tell me who we're fighting? Who we're fighting? What are they keeping us safe from? I mean, that never really gets asked. Thank you for your service and all that you do in helping keep us safe. From what? From Muslims? Is that it? I mean, is this really what the theater is about? That somehow by being involved in the Middle East and fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq, we're cutting off the Muslim scourge? Are they keeping us safe from the starving families of Yemen? See, this is where I take a kind of a hard left. I'm an anti-war person, big time anti-war. You want to defend your territory, you want to defend your property, you want to defend your loved ones. I'm all about it, all about it. But the way that the United States has gotten in bed with the military-industrial complex for the last 100 years is nothing that I think we should be proud of. You know, if anything, Veterans Day should be a day of capitulation and shame. I hate to say it, but it's true. Some people they may not like what I have to say, and I'm not dissing the soldiers or the people that have served in the Army or the Navy or the Air Force. I'm not dissing them. You know, I've gone over this before. A lot of times they're either driven by this idea that they really want to do something and have a kind of a moral relationship with the country and give back. And there's idealism and patriotism. And I'm not dissing that. If they want to do that, that's fine. It's not necessarily what I would do. And, but that's their life, right? If I had, well, I do have a son. And if he was going in the Army, I'd sit down and say, look, do you know what you're doing? Do you know what you're fighting for? Do you know what this is all about? You got to go in informed, because this is what you're fighting for. You understand that, don't you? And that's what I would do. And if you wanted to do it, well, what could you do? It's like, okay, well, go do your thing, right? But so I'm taking these people kind of off the hook a little bit, because they're either driven by some kind of standard of morality and patriotism, or they live in some dead end area of the country and they need benefits. Like there's a gal who works in town, and she's got a 2-year-old kid. She does a lot of waitress work. She's joining the reserves because she wants benefits for her kid. You know, she's going to get them by joining the reserves. I clearly there's an economic motivation in many of these instances. So I'm not going to diss people for that. You know, people go about doing things in different ways. There's this group entity system that says you come join us, and here's what you get. Here's the deal, and they take the deal because it's a better deal than what they have now. I get it, but at some point, it would behoove these people to understand who and what they're fighting, and what they're fighting for. I mean, that's the reality of this whole thing. And then we have this guy that shows up in Thousand Oaks with a gun, theoretically. I want to read you something. I'm going to move it into the present. This is going to be it's going to be a bit chilling here, what I'm going to read to you. This is from Newsweek. And this has to do with David Ian Long. Is that his name? And then the other guy, Robert Bowers. By the way, have not seen hide nor hair of Robert Bowers. Who's Robert Bowers? Well, he's the guy that supposedly went into the synagogue and started killing people. Where is this man? Any statements? Does he have a lawyer? Any pretrial? What's going on there? Question mark. Well, by the way, interesting little factoid. The same mailroom that the whole Broward County voting fiasco is taking place at is the same mailroom that those pipe bombs went out of. Yeah, it's the same mailroom in Broward County. Broward County has become like a rung of hell. Serious rung of hell. I'm gonna jump into little Broward County stuff in a minute. Let me read this to you. Lawmakers in New York have begun drafting legislation that would require owners to have the past 3 years of their social media reviewed before they were granted permission to own a firearm. It does not say anything like that in the Constitution. Eric Adams, the president of the Brooklyn Borough, and State Senator Kevin Palmer are currently writing the proposed legislation, which would give law enforcement authorities the power to check up to 3 years of an individual's social media accounts and internet search history before they're allowed to buy a gun. WCBS News Radio 880 reported. One of the main aims to identify any hate speech shared by the users, as the politicians noted that such offensive comments are generally only discovered after the mass shootings. Now, apparently, this clown in Thousand Oaks was able to post on Facebook in between the time he was killing people. And one of his posts was, in the end, you won't do anything about it. You're all weak. All you do is traffic in prayers and thoughts. It's a taunting. I mean, but nobody knows really kind of where it is. Like maybe it showed up on Instagram, but they're using this now. It's like, it's like, okay, I'm so cool, calculated, and sociopathic that I can just start killing people. Let me go and okay. Hit send. Okay, who's next? Poppity poppity pop. Oh, sorry, I got another message to send here. This is what happened, according to some Instagram post or something like that. I mean, it's bizarre. So what he was doing is basically saying, "Look, yeah, I have no reason really to do this because I'm just fucked up." And I'm taking joy in it. And I'm taking joy in the fact that you people are so weak that you're never going to be able to do anything about it. It's taunting. It's taunting, right? It's getting into people's heads about taking guns away. Eric Adams, the president of the Brooklyn Borough, and okay, so he says, okay, 3-year review of social media profile would give an easy profile of a person who is not suitable to hold and possess a firearm, Adams explained, according to WCBS. And there he is. Right. If the police department is reviewing gang assault, a robbery, some type of shooting, they go and do a social media profile investigation, the borough president pointed out. Palmer and Adams insist that such legislation is needed to curb gun violence, despite inevitable opposition from gun lobbyists as well as some who may be concerned about free speech. Well, you got the Second Amendment in there, right? Absolutely. Second Amendment, First Amendment. The Brooklyn leader. Okay, here we go. Adams also pointed to last weekend's massacre at the Pittsburgh Tree of Life Synagogue. This is a Newsweek story, and they didn't put the H after the G on Pittsburgh. Tree of Life Synagogue, in which 11 worshipers were killed and 6 others were injured. The attack was the deadliest to specifically target the Jewish community in U.S. history. The Brooklyn leader emphasized that the shooter's social media accounts would have raised serious alarm bells if such checks had been in place under existing laws in Pennsylvania, which would not be impacted by the New York policy shift. All shooters' weapons were bought legally, according to the police. There had been a clear indicator of the shooter in the Tree of Life shooting in Pittsburgh, the Brooklyn politician said, according to Spectrum News New York 1. The profile of a person who was mentally unstable purchasing or possessing a firearm should have been flagged, despite the claims of the powerful gun lobby, the NRA, and many politicians who often receive financial support from the organization. Studies have consistently shown that stricter gun laws correlate with fewer firearm fatalities. So the full court press is on, and they are not going to let up. We're going to have more events and more events and more events and more events until finally the public breaks under pressure and decides that we're going to give up guns. And that's the worst thing we could ever possibly do. Because when that happens, if and when that happens, then the balance of power will shift so much that an unarmed populace is at serious risk to any kind of outside invasion, occupying force, whatever. We're sitting ducks. We are sitting ducks. And if we look around and we can see what's happening post election, I mean, it's pure chaos. It is pure chaos between the shootings and the fires. And you think this stuff is just random? It's not random. It's not random at all. You know, this is a war. We are at war, and I've been saying this for a while now. We are in the midst of a culture war, perhaps a war between the deep state and the non-deep staters. I don't know. I don't tend to use deep state as a term very often. But we're definitely in a zone of conflict. It's a war zone. And you people in California, my heart goes out to you. I've been through those fires. I lived in Southern California. Scary. Scary. You don't know what to do. Stay, go, pack up. There. And this is really next level stuff there. So now, and I brought this up because of the so-called veteran that came back and shot up a bar. Now they want to look at your social media. They want to deny you weapons. Pretty soon it'll be pre-crime. They'll have scanners. The scanners are coming. I'm telling you, the scanners at public places are coming. And when you go to the airport, pretty soon it's going to be facial recognition. It's going to be all biometric. The next step from the biometric facial recognition is going to be behavioral personality recognition. That there'll be all these markers like blood pressure, what else? Body condensation, heart rate, all these things that they're going to be able to draw real-time information from. They may even have a version of a brain scanner. I'm serious. I'm serious. This stuff already exists. They're just waiting to roll it out so that they can derive all this information and say, that is a person we don't want on a plane. You may have a ticket, but you just wait right here. You're not going. You don't have a ticket to ride. This is where this is going. And one of the things that is very difficult is the fact that the mainstream media controls the narrative. And what alternative media has been doing and trying to do is to take the narrative back. Absolutely take the narrative back. And what happened was that obviously the mainstream media and the bankers decided that they didn't like that. So, Alex Jones is their boy for a long time, but he wasn't their boy enough, I guess. And they took Alex Jones out, and they just started shutting other websites down and pulling pages off of Facebook. And this is what happens. This is another aspect of the war that I'm talking about. And they're doing it because they don't want any opportunity for somebody else to come in and control the narrative. And when you do try to come in and bring something intelligent or something that has some merit, immediately the ad hominem attacks come in. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Oh, you're a racist. Oh, you're a misogynist. Oh, you're an anti-Semite. Right? That's the first line of defense. Absolute first line of defense. Attack the character. That's another way of controlling the narrative. I've been looking at this stuff for a long time, and I've come to the conclusion that the party or the entity that controls the narrative basically runs the program. It totally runs the program. So if you are living your life and you're involved in any kind of negotiation, if you're in charge of involved in any kind of um, litigation, if you're any kind of area where you're trying to deal with another person, controlling the narrative is something that you need to practice. Trust me on this. And controlling the narrative with an underpinning of truth makes it even more powerful. I wanted to talk a little bit about Iran today too, and this is another aspect of war that's going on. This is the economic war that's being waged against Iran. I have nothing against Iranians or Persians. All the Persians I've ever met in my life, super nice people, very well educated, classy, thoughtful, and the Trump administration is going hard after Iran. So in now Trump is surrounded by bankers. Trump has Mnuchin, he's got Wilbur Ross, he's got Sheldon Adelson on speed dial. So he's surrounded by bankers, Goldman Sachs people, you name it. I mean, he's deep in the mix. So one of the things that they want to do is they want to disable Iran. So a couple of weeks ago, I was talking about Ripple XRP, and I was talking about SWIFT and how SWIFT is the international transaction technology that allows countries and banks to move money via wireless transfers. So this is from today, and the headline here is SWIFT kick. Iranian banks about to be cut off from global financial network. I'll just read a little of this to you. Banks in Iran have started sending letters to their branches, informing them they will be cut off from the international financial messaging system, SWIFT, starting Monday. Being cut off from SWIFT makes it difficult for Iran to get paid for exports and to pay for imports. SWIFT's chief executive, Gottfried Leibrandt, had earlier confirmed the messaging service will start disconnecting some Iranian banks. Last week, the Belgian-based organization announced that it would be suspending some unspecified Iranian banks' access to this messaging system. Now, why is this happening? This is Trump theoretically leading the charge. And if Trump is so hated and reviled by his European counterparts, why are they marching lockstep with this idea to decouple Iran from SWIFT? It called the step regrettable, but said it has been taken in the interest of the stability and integrity of the global financial system. What the fuck does that mean? SWIFT is shutting down Iran's access to the interbank network under pressure from the U.S. after Washington unilaterally withdrew from an internationally recognized nuclear accord with Tehran and reimposed sanctions on the Islamic Republic. U.S. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, there's that name, said SWIFT was making the right decision. He has earlier warned the organization it could be penalized if it doesn't cut off financial services to entities and individuals doing business with Iran. Washington has been pressuring SWIFT to cut off Iran from the financial system as it did in 2012 before the nuclear deal. So that was under Obama's watch. By complying with Washington, SWIFT now faces the threat of punitive action from the European Union, which recognizes the nuclear deal with Iran. Well, Belgium is inside the European Union, isn't it? The Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, which is SWIFT, is a financial network that provides high-value cross-border transfers for members across the world. It is based in Belgium, but its board includes executives from U.S. banks with U.S. federal law allowing the administration to act against banks. So there you go. It supports most interbank messages connecting over 11,000 financial institutions in more than 200 countries and territories. So essentially, Iran's getting cut off from PayPal. That's what's happening. Now, a few weeks ago, I was talking about Ripple XRP, which is going to be the new transfer system. And watch how rapidly Iran adapts to Ripple XRP. That is going to be the new transfer system. The Chinese are going to be all over it. The Russians are going to be all over it. Will it be able to replace SWIFT as swiftly as they would like? That remains to be seen. That said, there's probably a financial opportunity to get into Ripple XRP. They say it'll hit 10 by the end of the year. So if you're into cryptocurrencies, I think Paula might be in the chat room. She's a pretty intelligent person when it comes to cryptos. And then you might want to look at Ripple XRP. Speaking of the chat room, let me check in with everybody, see how we're doing there. Let's see. Goldman Sachs. Let's see. Such a multitasker, that shooter, right? I mean, he's like texting. I think he's ordering a pizza. He's shooting people. I guess life in the military prepares you for stuff like that. You're describing the dystopian future predicted, at least as far as back as Aldous Huxley. Absolutely, Maury. It's what they want. What else do we have here? China's already tracking citizens using their walking style. Oh my God. Can you imagine that? Could you imagine knowing that you're being tracked by your walking style? Like thinking about, oh, gee, how am I walking today? Am I walking too boisterously? Maybe is my gait too arrogant? Maybe I should stop swinging my arms. Maybe I should hold them closer to my body. Maybe I should take shorter steps. Maybe I should look down instead of ahead. Holy shit. What a mindfuck. Sorry. No guns in Cuba either. 60 years of repression and counting. There you go. Once they take the guns, it's over. It is over. Look at what's happening in Australia. It's not completely totalitarian, but the Chinese are taking over Australia. There's nothing that people can do about it either. Right? What else do we have here? Who are you fighting for? Great UB40 song. That is a great UB40 song. Early UB40 is really good. Really, 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 really good. They do a song called The Earth Dies Screaming, which is an amazing, amazing song. You know it, Steve. You know what I'm talking about. What else do we have? Notice the modern military recruits from uniform, testosterone-laden poverty. Yes. Yes, the modern military recruits from uniform, testosterone-laden poverty level. Yes, absolutely. Not if we win. Yeah, look, the game is not over, man. This game is not over. It's far from over. The game is really just starting, to be quite honest with you. And you're in it, and you're here on the planet, and it's actually pretty interesting, remarkable, and incredible place to be to witness what's going on right now. Let's see. Off Planet did a show with Tom Williams yesterday. They're saying yes, having to do with bankers and trust. Okay, maybe I should go listen to that. I'm going to be laying low today, so I'll probably go listen to that. In any case, this show is not meant to be dismissive or disrespectful of anybody that's served in our military. I'm actually more opposed to the institution than the people, although at some point it would be great if people just said, had enough. At some point, they'll be replaced by robots, just to be honest with you. We'll have robots on the front lines. I'd love to know your thoughts on Williams and what he says. Okay, I'll listen. I'll make a point to listen. I'll get that first free hour. Hey, I just wanted to say thank you to Joan, who sent out a donation. And I really appreciate that. I don't often ask for donations. I don't have a Patreon account, which I continually bang around my head and think I need to do. So if you ever felt like you did want to donate, you can go to my website, robertphoenix.com, and keep the home fires burning, as they say. But I just wanted to thank Joan, who reached out and decided to donate to the fund. So maybe I'll get that Patreon thing up and going. Let's see, Ani. I tried to listen who the woman was. She was the one on top of Mana. I just got an icky feeling. I couldn't listen. Ani says, I don't trust those two. So we all become the fool and play the game of fools. There's no other game. There's no other game. I totally agree. Totally agree. The holy fool. That's who we are. There won't be any good energy harvest from robot soldiers. No, there won't. And then maybe at some point the robots become sentient and turn on, their commanders. Hey, there's Juana. What's going on, Juana? Juana Castanera. Um, I'm getting ready to get out of here. I will be out in California in December, and I will be in Marin County a little bit, and I'm planning on having a party. If Marin County is still around by the time I get out there. So if you live in Marin County or you live in Santa Rosa County, Awana, I know you do. So you can shoot me an email and let me know, and I'll invite you. Be at a friend of mine's house in San Rafael. Be good times. Thomas seems genuine. I checked out his People's Choice stuff. I think he's sincere, but again, her vibe turned me off. Okay, I'll check him out. All right. Hey, listen, you're the best. You're the best chat room. You're the best audience on the internet. If you like the show, tell people about it. Have them subscribe, ring the bell, and I'll be back tomorrow. And hopefully, whatever's in my system, man, I'll just seize it out of here. I rarely get sick. So when I do, it brings me down. Love you too, honey. Hey, use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay open to what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Thank you very much. I'll be back tomorrow. Have a great day. And God bless the veterans. Take care.